Hey students, this video will give you an overview of the exam, the types of questions that are on the exam, as well as the type of content that you will be expected to know. And I don't want you to think that the exam is the entire focus of this course. It is an AP course. There is an exam at the end. If you do well on the exam, you get a 3, 4, or 5. You could possibly get college credit and fulfill college level history requirement with this exam. But there is a lot more to this class than just the exam at the end. I want you to be good historical thinkers. I want you to be good writers. I want you to communicate well. And of course, I want you to learn the history content. But if you do decide to take the AP exam, you should probably know what you're getting yourself into. So that's the purpose of this video. On the screen in front of you, you'll see the graphic that has 9 time periods. It gives you the date range. And then you notice instructional time. That's the amount of time that we will spend on each of those periods. You'll notice that 1 and 9 will only be spending a little bit of time, only about 5%. Because if you look in the last column, it's only represented on the AP exam about 5%. So what that means is of the entire exam, only 5% of it covers period 1 and 5% of it covers period 9. So if I want to make sure that you're prepared, I need to make sure that the bulk of the content comes from periods 2 and 8. You'll notice that periods 2 through 5 are worth 45% of the exam, and 6 through 8 are also worth 45% of the exam. So that's where we'll focus most of our time. Now we'll talk about the exam description. You see that the exam is divided up into 2 sections. The first section includes multiple choice questions. There will be 55 questions. You'll have 55 minutes to do it, and that's worth 40% of your total exam score. The other part of section 1 is part B, short answer questions. In this part of the test, there will be 4 questions. You'll have 45 minutes to complete it, and that's 20% of the exam. In the multiple choice section of the exam, you'll be given a very short passage, and then you'll be asked to answer 3 to 5 questions about that passage. You won't find necessarily answer in the passage. The passage is supposed to sort of set the context and kind of stimulate the knowledge that you know about the time period that's being asked or the idea that's being asked. This is a change from previous U.S. history exams and classes. So if you know people that have taken this class in the past, their multiple choice section was based mostly on like memorization of knowledge and applying that knowledge, and I think was a lot harder. The passages or the graphics or maps or charts that are given to you, I think make the questions a little bit easier. Not that it's terribly easy, it's still kind of a college level class and exam, but I think this change is a good change for students. The second part of section 1, the short answer questions, you'll be given 4 questions. You'll have 45 minutes to answer them, and that's worth 20% of the total exam score. An example of a short answer question might be something like this. You might be given an image to look at, and there's going to be 3 parts to the question. The first part may say something like, briefly explain the point of view expressed in the image about political participation or citizenship. So you have to look at the image and figure out, what time period it was in, what is it representing, types of people in the image, and then you would have to express the point of view of the image. The second part of the question might ask you to explain an outcome or a change depicted in this image. So you have to look at the image again and say, well, what happened after this? What was the result of what was going on around here? And then the third part might ask you to relate what happened during this time period to a different time period. Another type of a short answer question might be where you're given 2 passages, for example, and you have to explain a difference between the purpose or the point of view or the message that the 2 different authors were writing about. You might have to explain how someone might be able to support one of the author's viewpoints, and you have to use your knowledge of history and pull on some historical evidence that you have in your brain to answer that question. So there's a variety of different question types that you might see in the short answer. The key is here that you're really only writing a few sentences for each part of the question. Just remember that the short answer is not an essay, it's really a short answer. A few sentences should cover it. The next part of the exam, section 2, there's two parts again. There's the document-based question, or the DBQ. There's one question on the exam. You have an hour to do it. It's worth a quarter of your total exam score. The other part, the long essay question, they give you two questions. You choose one. You have 35 minutes to answer it. It's worth 15% of your total exam. The DBQ asks you to do all the things that you see on your screen right here. You have to have a thesis for the DBQ. You have to support your thesis with evidence from all or all but one of the documents. So you'll have a variety of documents there. You need to make sure you use them all or almost all of them. You need to incorporate analysis of the documents into your arguments. And you can't just say, hey, here's an example from document 2. You actually have to analyze it. Here's the part, this is new this year, and this is something that might throw a lot of students on the test because they're going to forget to do it. We're going to talk about this and talk about it all year long so that you make sure that if you do take the test, you know how to do this part. For each document, you need to focus on either intended audience, purpose, historical context, and or point of view. We'll talk more about what this means later, but I just wanted to emphasize this part right here. You need to support your argument with analysis of historical examples outside the document. So you have to pull in information that you remember studying that aren't represented in the documents. This is where taking good notes and really understanding what we're studying is going to really help you. You need to connect your argument to broader events or broader processes. So really that's just that connection piece. You need to put all of this together into a persuasive essay. So you're not just listing all of this information, you're actually writing a thesis, you're using this information in your analysis to prove that thesis. And as always, you need to make sure that you're answering the question that's being asked of you. For the long essay, you need to do the following. You need a thesis that addresses all parts of the question. That's important. You need to make sure that you support your argument with evidence using specific examples. So you can't just be general. You have to bring in specific things and people and events and laws. You need to apply historical thinking skills as directed by the question. So remember these guys, the historical thinking skills? The question will direct you to address certain ones of these. You need to make sure that you do that. And then finally, you need to synthesize all of those things into a persuasive essay that extends your argument or connects it to a different historical context or connects it to a different category of analysis. We'll talk more about what all that means later, but this is just an overview of what you need to do in the long essay. And believe me, you'll have plenty of practice with this throughout the course of the year.